Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana. This important program series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of a state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for 60 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, you hear about these big shots of industry. Well, today we've got a live one. Joseph M. Stewart, Senior Vice President, Corporate Affairs, the Kellogg Company. Joseph, welcome to Louisiana Legends.
Gus, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Now, your origin, which fascinates me because I love the parish of Point Capee, was Maringouin, Louisiana.
Maringouin, my childhood place, my love place.
Tell me about growing up in Maringouin, please, sir.
Well, I came up on a farm. Dad had the good fortunes of having 60 acres of land, and Dad worked for a company named Brown and Root. He was a roustabout gang pusher. And my brother and I, that was 2 years younger and older than me, we had the responsibility of working those 60 acres. So came up as a little kid. You get up in the morning, you go out in the field, you leave the field, you go to school, you come from school, you go back into the field. And we raised cotton and corn on those 60 acres.
This is a kind of a delicate question. A lot of kids started that way and ended that way, working those fields. What inspired you? What was the thing in your life that set you in motion and brought you to the lofty heights of corporate America from Maringouin?
Well,
a black man from Maringouin, Louisiana.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids have it, and sometimes you get a lot of luck and a lot of good breaks to go along with it, but what started it was a 256-pound man that said, boy, you going to school.
Your dad?
My dad. My dad. Oh, yeah, my dad. And I had the good fortunes of coming from a good home with a mom and dad. Mom was always there and always loving, and Dad was always there and always threatening. And so I think going to school, and I got to tell you, going to school wasn't an easy proposition.
Let me stop you for a moment. How important is that? And you and our audience know to what I'm alluding, to have that mother and father both there at the house.
Yeah, I think it's very important, but I also have to come to the realization, Gus, that nowadays that's not, you know, you're that old mother, father, 2 children, 3 children. That's not the way society is made up now. But there has to be love someplace. You know, there's got to be love from somebody. If it's a single mother, it's got to be that love and that inspiration. If it's family, a grandparent, somebody got to be there encouraging a young person to do what's right in life and to have some ambition, to want to go someplace. I think that's the most important thing.
Do you recall having any role models as a youngster?
Yeah. I mean, Dad, number one, because I respected Dad a lot. I'll never forget, coming up, Dad built a house off 75 cents an hour. This was back in 1950. Dad built a house for us. That was the first real house we had. Before that time, I shouldn't say real house, but a modern type house, because before then it was the outhouse and just a little small shotgun house, but it was home. And there was much love in that as there's ever been in any home. But to see Dad do that, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that, and I often think now how he made it with all of us, and every time I think that, it makes me think about my good fortunes and how I ought to be doing more for people around me.
So love was the key.
I think so. Love and inspiration. And also the confidence, making you feel that you could be somebody and you could do something, but always emphasizing, I believe, that education was a key part of that. You got to, I'll never forget Dad said, boy, you got to get an education. Can't anybody take that away. Those words still ring out.
My own immigrant father used that exact line.
Oh, yeah.
The line they used was what you just said, Joseph, nobody can take that away.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So All right, you go through high school, and was it a segregated high school?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Totally
yeah,
segregated?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you have much dealings with white people?
Actually, yes, which I guess was an inspiration too. I worked for them. So, in a sense, I never forget out in our hometown, the way I made money during the summer was throwing hay. And so you got to know, I'll never forget Mr. Vince, would throw hay for him. And these were all good people. We lived in a segregated society, but after you got beyond that social baloney, you dealt with the heart of a person. And these were good people, but we were living in a structured situation where everybody kept their little place, so to speak. But you knew those were good people, and they cared for you. You could tell they had a sense of care for you.
So it was determined then, I guess, that you were going to go to Southern University.
Yeah, well, what determined that, I'll never forget. I got to Southern University because my principal, Mom and Dad both had a third-grade education, and they pushed education, but they didn't understand what it really took to get through college,
yes,
to get to college. But my high school principal, he took that upon himself because I did all right in high school. You know, I played sports. I finished about third in my class, and my brother and I tied for third place. And so he took it upon himself to find a way to help me get some assistance to get into Southern because my people didn't have the money. They could not have provided me the money necessary to get through Southern. And
so what was Southern University like when one Joseph Stewart arrives there from Maringouin? What, you had a suitcase?
I don't know if didn't just have a bag. I'm not sure. I don't remember anymore.
Bag.
Yeah, but I think we had a Foot Locker, as I recall. Foot Locker, yeah. Yeah.
And what was Southern like? What was your impression?
Oh, God, it was first time being on your own, kind of. I'll never forget the way people cared for you. You know, things that I don't know how much it happens anymore. I remember Dr. Robinson. When people learn your nickname, you know, and we all had them down here, I had professors who knew me well enough that they would call me by my nickname, Bo, which my wife still calls me Bo, believe it or not. But just to have that around you, that was like family. That said that somebody had some expectations of you, and you had to live up to those. You couldn't let people down. And I think that's something else in a child's life. When there's somebody around them that love them, care for them, and expect them to do something with themselves, you get the motivation to not to let people down.
Back then, did you all have much interface with the city of Baton Rouge, or were you again in a primarily segregated society? Because integration didn't really come till the 60s.
Oh, I know. I mean, Baton Rouge, we had some contact with Baton Rouge. It was the joy of my life, maybe once a month, for Daddy to put us in the truck and drive over to the little ferry in Port Allen and catch that ferry and come across and visit our grandmom. And our sister, Daddy had let our sister come over to Baton Rouge to come to school. And we thought that was the best break. Why? She's getting everything, you know, big school, big town. But Baton Rouge then, I mean, Baton Rouge obviously was segregated then as well because you had Capital and McKinley, as I recall, and then you had the white schools. And so...
Joseph, it's interesting about this crime of segregation, which may be the greatest crime in the history of this country, separating a race from the general stream of society. Right. Some folks never got over it, didn't they?
Right. Well, some still hadn't gotten over it, but I tell you, I've had the good fortune, Gus, of traveling every continent on the face of this earth, and you go to other countries. You go to China, you go to Korea, you go to Europe, you go to Latin America, and you realize how much of the world out there not like us and how we're such a small part. And I often think how stupid it is for us to be separated among ourselves on the I coined my word over in South Africa. I call it pigmentocrats.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Pigmentocrats.
I've never heard it before.
Oh, yeah, we got our politics based on our pigments. And that's sad because people close out understanding what's in another man's heart. When you look at him and see him coming and you put him in a box.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
We're really attuned. We're on the same page. So you're at Southern. When does the course of study begin to evolve or emerge that you want to follow?
Actually, I went to Southern thinking I wanted to be a doctor. You know, you knew to be a doctor or a teacher or something. That was your way out.
Yes.
That was your idea. And I went to Southern thinking I wanted to be a doctor, and I hooked up with trigonometry and math and algebra as a freshman, and it changed my mind. Those subjects changed my mind. I was good enough to hang in there, but I started saying, God, I mean, this is tough stuff. Now, you got to keep in mind, I'm just a kid from Maringouin, huh?
Yes.
And I'm jumping into Southern as a freshman with all this heavy stuff, and I had a good grade point average coming in. But I was struggling. I said, you know, let me see what else I can look at. So I looked around, and I had taken most of my chemistry and my math, and there was this area called nutrition. And everything I had taken fell within that curriculum.
It was a strange area, though, for a man, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
One associated that with women.
You got that. You got that right. All the kids.
They were also segregated against.
Oh yeah. I mean, all the kids. I tell you, all the kids looked at. There were about 3 males in the whole school of home economics, and back during that time, people look at you funny. But we were the ones having all the fun, you know, because
with all those ladies,
you
of course,
got it.
sure.
You know, we were the smart guys.
I spotted that way off.
We were the smart guys on campus. But it turned out, and I tell you, there was a woman there that was the dean of the school of home economics and the major professor. Those two people, every point in my life, there's been somebody that's sort of been the motivating force there. And Pinky Thrift and Freddie Johnson, those two individuals, Freddie is still in Baton Rouge. She recently retired from Southern. She will be in my heart and my mind until the day I leave this earth. Because even now, even now, Freddie keeps up with me. I stay in touch with her. And she's one of the most admired people I know for what she did with me as a young person in that school of home economics.
Those quiet heroes, huh?
Exactly.
We don't read about them. You know, they're not on the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly.
They're not asked for interviews, as you just did with the Detroit Free Press. But they change lives of folks like you.
Oh, yeah.
And you are the people who change the world.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, every time I and some more of the Southernites that finished doing my era from the School of Home Economics, when we get together, inevitable, we end up talking about Freddie Johnson and Pinky Thrift.
So trace for me then, you graduate. So do your folks come? Is it a great day in the Stewart family?
Oh, yeah. Well, unfortunately, my dad never saw, and I still live with that, how much I wanted him to see me with my degree and to see me as a man. Right now, I still think about my mom and dad all the time, you know, and those times. And I think, boy, I wish he was here and I could do some things for him because I've been so fortunate and I knew it was because of he and mom. But yes, they were there. It was a great day. I was the first one in the family to finish school.
Wow.
I was the first one in the family to finish college.
Wow.
Yeah.
So go ahead and trace quickly then after you left Southern.
Well, I left Southern and I was very fortunate, again, because of a professor whose father was a major professor at Tuskegee Institute.
You owe a lot of people, don't you?
All of us owe a lot of people, all of us. And anybody who can't think back and think about all of the people they owe along the way, then they're sort of missing something. But this professor took it upon himself to start marketing me to some institutions. And I walked out of Southern in 9 days after I got my papers. I was at Jackson State as an assistant director of dining services. $400 a month. $400 a month. That was it. And I often think about that. Then there, a man by the name of Valmore Nelson took me under his wings. He thought I had a lot of potential. I called him until the day he passed. And I don't know how many times I didn't say, Valmore, you don't know how much you meant to me. But he propelled me to the next level.
And then where did you go next?
I left Jackson State and I ended up at Alabama State. I left Alabama State and was, all of these were sort of like somebody offer you $2,000 more.
Yes, sir.
That was big promotion for me then.
Of course.
Yeah, so I got offered a job at Alabama State. I stayed there almost a year, and The vice president left there and went to Tennessee State, and he called me and said, Joe, I got a job here. And I learned early what it meant to keep building on a strong reputation, because if you
now
do
it's called networking.
You got it. Exactly, exactly. But there's a little bit more than that, too, because people like to reach back to call somebody they can believe and trust in to help them with their situation. So I kept getting these calls.
Now, jump ahead from these various positions. Your first contact with this great American company, this Kellogg's.
Yeah, well, I had, Gus, the good fortune of spending 10 years as director of child nutrition program for the city of Washington, D.C.
Wow.
So during that time, I had many occasions to testify before Congress on child nutrition legislation, and I had a lot of contact with the media and with congressional people. So you learn the Washington scene. You learned how to get around and how things were done.
And they learned you.
Yeah, but what happened was, at the end of those 10 years, I realized as a young man, I was 36, and I had the good fortune of reaching the highest GS grade in government before you start to get into political appointments. And I said, I can't stay here and retire. I decided one Sunday afternoon to upgrade my resume and send it out to about 5 different companies. One of those companies was Kellogg. And I'd had the good fortune of meeting some people there. And so I just said, I'm considering changing my career. I want to go into the private sector. Here's my experience. If any of your needs match this, I'd be very much interested in talking. I got a call from those people and say, we'd like to talk to you in Battle Creek. I went up there. I got offered the job. Great change. Because then, from the time I got there, I've had the good fortune of making progress. To now being in the executive suite, I work directly for the chairman, and I do a lot of the work off of his desk, plus all of our government relations globally.
Long way from a farm in Maringouin.
You got it. I mean, so far away. When I was on that farm, I had no idea this exists.
You're now very active on the Southern Board. You're heading up, I think, their major
Capital campaign, yes.
What is the future of Southern University?
I think we must ensure that there is a positive future. That's the challenge that we have here. There's no doubt in my mind, tracking my own move from Maringouin and the people who helped me and the role Southern played and now where I am, and I think it's because of Southern and how it was able to deal with young people who came from circumstances like mine. There's still a lot of those young people out there. There's still a lot of the problems we have as a society that exist, where certain people who have had certain experiences are put in an awkward situation in the mainstream, so to speak, and people don't relate to them well. Southern is that place that can relate to people, and we must ensure that it's there and that young people like me continue to have an opportunity to move from those situations into the bigger world beyond Southern. I just think that's critical.
I want to ask you a tough question, but I feel you're the kind of man who is prepared for these kind of questions. Is there hope for the young black citizen, man and woman today? It seems to me that, as we discussed earlier, the media primarily displays those folks as in trouble, being searched, arrested. Is there hope out there?
Oh, yeah. You got to look at it 2 ways. You got to not forget all of the young people who are out there in high technology situations, some of the most brilliant kids in the world going to Harvard, going every place, going all over the world as I've had the good fortune to do. So let's not forget that the vast majority of young people are out there in those situations. It's just that we don't hear of them.
They don't make news.
That's the point about the media now, because we've all as a society gotten into this turmoil-related thing. That's what we seem to find interest in. And inevitably what you see is a TV camera pointed at the young black kid that's in trouble, not the young black kid that's developing robots and doing scientific breakthroughs in high school. And you got these young kids out there, but rather you put on the news the young person that's having a problem with law enforcement or the gangbanging and some of that other stuff. And it's unfortunate that that is the image that's being projected, and it seems like that's all the young blacks.
Louisiana Legends, this program, and we're now in our 15th or 16th year, is seen statewide. And I'm hopeful that a lot of folks are watching this, what I consider this very important segment, because you're our guest. What do you say? What will you say into that camera to the young blacks who are watching this program? What's your advice to them?
Well, my advice is that I'm nothing special. I'm somebody just as you are. And if you just insist on being somebody, getting up every morning, putting forth the effort, and be determined that you're going to make it, you can make it in this country. And nobody can turn you around. You can't let other people determine you're going to fail in life. Only you can make that kind of determination for yourself.
You went to South Africa representing your country, and there you ran into an interesting person, the American ambassador to South Africa. Now, you shocked me when you told me about him. Please tell our audience.
Well, I had the occasion to have breakfast with Ambassador James Joseph, who is from Opelousas, I believe.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I had breakfast with Ambassador Joseph, my wife and daughter and I, about 2 years ago, but I saw him just a month ago at the home of President Mandela, because I was in South Africa again, and he and his wife were there along with...
Louisiana man.
Louisiana man. Actually, there were two of us in the room, he and I. And so when you start thinking about Louisiana, I guess we overpowered the rest of the nation that day in South Africa.
How did you meet your wife? Tell me a little bit about her and your kids.
Yeah, I met my wife in high school. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary this past June. She was from New Roads, or is from New Roads. Her family is there. And I was playing high school football at T.A. Levy out in Rosedale. And we went to what was called Rosenwald at that time in New Roads, and she was the 10th grade queen in a 10th grade court. And I saw her and just knew something had to happen there. I just, so I hung around New Roads until I convinced her, you know.
And how about your kids?
My kids, I have a son that's 27. I sent him back to Southern.
You could have sent him any place in the country.
Place.
Harvard, Yale, Princeton, the Ivy League. But you sent him to Southern.
I sent him
That's a great testament.
Well, but I got to tell you, I sent him to Southern because we had always lived away from here and in a different environment. I felt it very important that my son connect with his roots, connect with his home, and Southern was that place he could do that. And he's so proud now. I think Southern helped him grow. I know it helped him grow in a different way. And he's getting married in November. I have a daughter now who is a senior at the University of Michigan and planning to go to grad school to do a master's in public health.
What a family. What an American family. You're a very religious man, are you not?
I am. I thought it very important. Both my wife and I are Catholic. We came up in the church. Gus, I tell you, I almost went to be a priest at one time when I was in high school, and changed my mind after I met the young lady you and I are talking about.
That 10th grade queen.
That 10th grade queen kind of changed. Yeah. She changed my mind on that. But yeah, we felt it was important that be a part of our kids as well, because I think that's very important to being a total human being, so that you don't get carried away with your good fortunes on earth and not realize that a supernatural being has as much to do with that more than you do. And so you got to always be thankful, number one, that there is a God there and that he's looking out for you.
You know, I'm ashamed and proud at the same time to say that you have given me a totally clear and different picture of Southern. The average white person knows so little about what's going on within his world that it's embarrassing and shocking. And I'm a man who reads and keeps up with the news, but I had no concept of that university's effect on people.
Well, let me put it like this. It is sad, and it's sad for this reason. Universities like Southern, I consider them national treasures for this reason. If it hadn't been for those universities when we had chosen in society to separate people, think about the waste in this country. Think about, I never could have made it like this because I don't think I would have gone to college if it hadn't been for Southern.
Joseph, we've about run out of time. This half hour flew. I want to say as a fellow Louisianian, as an American, how very proud I am to have met you and to share with you your thoughts. This is the only time I've said this after 16 years. I hope an awful lot of young people have access to this program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Gus.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate being here. Thank you.
Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana. This important program series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of a state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for 60 years.